My story comes out of Marijuana Moment today, and the headline is Legalizing Medical Marijuana in Utah Helped Reduce Opioid Use by Paying Patients, Study Finds. A new study on prescription opioid use in Utah following the state's legalization of medical marijuana suggests the availability of legal cannabis has both reduced opioid use by patients with chronic pain and also helped drive down prescription overdose deaths statewide. Since the legalization of medical cannabis in 2018, there has been a noticeable decrease in deaths related to prescription opioids in the state, the report says. This shift suggests that the introduction of cannabis as a therapeutic alternative may have contributed to a reduction in opioid use among patients seeking pain relief. Members of Utah's Medical Cannabis Policy Advisory Board heard a presentation last week on the research, which was prepared by the analytics firm Management Science Associates. Overall, results of the study indicate that cannabis has a substantial role to play in pain management and the reduction of opioid use, it says. As the medical community continues to seek safer pain management options, the report concludes, cannabis may become a key component of treatment strategies, particularly for chronic pain patients. These findings support the hypothesis that cannabis can significantly reduce opioid use among chronic pain patients, it adds. This is crucial as it provides a potential pathway to tackle opioid dependency, offering a less addictive alternative for chronic pain management with fewer side effects. The results reinforce findings from a similar study the company conducted in Minnesota, the authors said, and additionally align with previous literature indicating that the medical cannabis can serve as an effective adjunctive therapy for chronic pain, leading to significant reduction in opioid use. The new MSA study that was presented at the advisory board meeting evaluated 186 pain patients, looking at transactions at medical marijuana dispensaries and matching that data with medical records using an MSA patented HIPAA-compliant de-identification system. Patients were split roughly evenly between female, which was 54%, and male at 45%, and were overwhelmingly white, 87%. Ages ranged from 23 to 89, which means with a mean age of 49. Virtually all, 98.9%, were from Utah, with a small number from Oregon and New Mexico. More than half, 57%, had chronic musculoskeletal pain, the study says, while 19% had chronic visceral pain, 13% had chronic headache and orofacial pain, 4% had chronic primary pain, and 3% had chronic neuropathic pain, and 2% had chronic post-traumatic and post-surgical pain. More than 8 in 10 patients decreased their use of opioids as measured in morphine milligram equivalents. Specifically, there was a 53.1% reduction, the MSA report says. The mean MME month in the period before cannabis use was 3,832 MMD per month, and after starting cannabis, we observed a mean of 1,798, which is about half. So, while many patients reported more than one type of pain, results showed that most who reduced their opioid prescriptions during cannabis use suffered from chronic musculoskeletal pain. The sharpest reduction in opioids, meanwhile, was among people with chronic neuropathic pain. Separate research published earlier this year found that more than half of patients with chronic musculoskeletal pain said cannabis was more effective than other analgesic medications, while 40% reported that reducing their use of painkillers since they began using marijuana. Only one category of conditions in the Utah study, chronic headache and orofacial pain, was associated with increases in opioid use. Those conditions were linked to a 20% rise in opioid consumption compared to a 10% to a 73% reduction among all the other conditions in the study. People who smoked tobacco prior to starting marijuana use also saw an increase in opioid consumption after starting cannabis, the report says. That's really interesting. Despite the new evidence suggesting drops in opioid consumption and overdose deaths in Utah following the legalization of medical marijuana, the new study says more research is needed. Our results suggest that while there is evidence supporting the efficacy of cannabis in reducing opioid use, larger studies are needed to confirm these findings and refine cannabis treatment protocols, authors wrote. They recommended future studies also focus on larger and more diverse populations as well as specific dosages of cannabinoids. This is a great story. We've heard this many times from many states. There's been many studies that have shown that this is the case. When cannabis is introduced as a legal option to pain management, people turn to it because they don't want to be hooked on opioids, and cannabis is obviously a non-addictive alternative that's wonderful for most people. So I'd love to hear what Dr. Mark has to say about this, because you definitely know the most.
Well, it's just, I think the evidence is there. I think a lot of doctors are skeptical, especially addiction experts, are skeptical on complete replacement with cannabis. I think they still like to see those other, things that are used, which are pharmaceuticals to help them kick addiction, I mean, addiction does start with it doesn't start in the garden. It starts in the medical cabinet, or what we used to call medicine chest, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know several people who basically say that cannabis has saved their life. And in particular, I mean, this is interesting too, Jesse, they claim concentrates. That when they discovered cannabis concentrates, that the incredible feeling that you get when you consume concentrates replaced their need for taking opiates. I know several people that fall into that category. But, I think a doctor now, especially after the whole, family, what is that family, Rico? The opioid family.
The opioid family?
The Sacklers?
The Sacklers?
Those guys. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, now, doctors and Dr. T will tell you this, that, doctors have other alternatives to prescribe an opiate or OxyContin. I know, just like, it's sort of like old hat for if you have surgery, they send you away with painkillers thinking that, oh, okay, yeah, these painkillers are going to help them in the post-operative, next week or so, but it doesn't think about whether or not they could be now addicted to these things and need to replenish them over and over again, and that's just an ugly cycle. Cannabis, I think, does play a role in getting people weaned off of opiates, people who have opiate addictions. I think cannabis can definitely help. And again, from my experience, it wasn't just smoking joints or just eating gummies. It was having to do cannabis concentrates and getting the full essence of the plant. But that's what I've seen, Jesse. I mean, I think there's a lot of anecdotal information, but I think doctors are still super skeptical of it.
You're 100% right. In fact, one of my best friends and many of our best friends, Jason Pinsky, that's his story.
Yeah,
he was
Pinsky.
way buried.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah, he was buried under oxys. Right? Yeah, that's right. And he was buried under that shit.
Probably watching. Yeah, I mean, Jason.
And that's the way he got out, was the concentrates. And he was like, it wasn't, joint didn't do it. Nothing did it. But then I started getting a hold of these concentrates, and immediately he was like, I was able to ramp down my oxy intake. So it's important.
I witnessed that. I was there for that. I saw that happen in front of my eyes.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you for covering this story. Like this hits home for me in several ways too, because tinctures is what got me off of my opioids, man. Vicodin, Norco, Zoloft, like all that shit. I couldn't get off of anything. Went to rehab twice, and it was tinctures that actually helped me break out of that zone. But I have to say about Utah, right? Utah, these Mormons that run the state, they about their money, period. They are about their money. I could see this exacerbating into MLM schemes, which they are also known for making a fuck ton of money off of Quickstar and the likes in MLMs out there. How soon do we see a ton of these medical MLMs coming out of Utah, and Utah becoming the actual legal leader in revenue, because that shit's gonna happen.
Speaking of MLMs, Vermont Alternative says in the chat, he says it's not a pyramid scheme, it's a triangular organization.
And you saw my response to that? I'm a firm believer that the trapezoidal organizations will reign supreme.
Oh, man.
And they will live on to become king at the end of the day. No, but seriously though, man, they love their MLMs, their pyramid schemes, and they love making money out there in Utah. I can see Utah flipping this shit into becoming the number one revenue generator for medical, or if they ever come around to full legalization, just because they know how to fucking make money off of shit that they don't believe in. And the one time that I was out there for the NCAA tournament to see my Western North Wildcats win out there a few years back, like, bought a couple of bottles. These motherfuckers came out in a cage. You can't even touch them. They came out in a cage. You can't buy other people's drinks. If you take your hand off of a drink, you can't buy the shit for other people. Like, they got rules out there, but they're making money hand over fist. Like, I can see this being a crazy situation, but very lucrative.
Well, Rico, you got to connect the dots from the beginning of the show to this story, and it's going to be MLM Delta 9 for the win.
And all those beverages,
already popping.
All those beverages that they're going to be selling in Utah pretty soon.
Yeah, infused soda. That's how they get down when they really want to go crazy. Infused soda. Is that even approved? Does anybody know, or we have any Mormons on the show? Is that approved?
Mormons approve of anything that makes money.
They can't. Yeah, they can't. No. They can. Mormons definitely cannot drink THC. That's not allowed.
But they can sell it, and they can. I
mean, they do it for sure. Just like anybody who's in a cult breaks the rules of their cult to do things. But
hey. It's a religion. It's
oh, sorry. I call all churches cults. That's my thing.
Jesse, in all fairness, is pretty consistent. He calls all religions cults. Every single one of them.
Yes.
The difference. Hey, see, the difference between a cult and a religion is about the same as the difference between hemp-derived THC and real THC.
It's because it all has the same. That's cute. That's cute, Rico.
Nice work. That was good.
That's cute, Rico. All right. Well,